Back on the podcast, and my thanks to Paul Burmeister, as usual, for keeping me on track with all the events in the National Football League in week 2 and looking ahead to week 3. But now I want to go to a good friend of mine from the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Paul Allen, who does the Minnesota Vikings games on the radio. And last night, or maybe, no, it was a couple of nights ago, obviously, after the game where the Minnesota Vikings basically missed a kind of a gimme, just a little bit longer field goal than an extra point would be, Greg Joseph. And Paul Allen had one of the great angsty calls that I've ever heard in radio. And at first, because it was so close, Paul Allen thought it was in. And Paul, I don't want you to be too upset about this, but we are going to play the call.
High snap, put down. It is gone! No, he missed it. Good. Are you kidding me? He missed it right.
He missed it right.
Oh, my heavens.
Oh, my.
He missed it right.
What a gut punch to a team, Paul, that play after play toward the end fought its way back.
And I want you to take me up into the booth and tell me what it was like making that call and then realizing that, you made an error on this call.
Well, it was a 37-yard field goal by a kicker in the land of misfit kickers that includes so many for so many years, where Greg had made a 53-yard field goal to send it in overtime at Cincinnati and had made 2 52-yarders that day at State Farm Stadium. So, what I did here, and I said basically, the kick is good. Oh, he missed it. He missed it right. Oh, my heavens. And so I messed it up. I completely botched it. Now, here's the mistake that I made. And, I'm so particular with the way the game calls go and being the quarterback in that booth and a quarterback who wants to distribute the ball to the spotter and the statistician and the analyst and the sideline guy and Pat technical guy on the back for the balance and everything. That's the kind of QB I want to be. I am actually, not want to be, I am. So there are moments where I will say to somebody like the statistician or the spotter, if you don't know what the number is, don't guess, because that messes me up when I share it in the call. Well, I guessed. And honestly, I guessed for the first time in my 20-year career calling Minnesota Vikings football. I guessed. And I normally wait for the ref to do this or do this and watch it. And I don't care if it takes too long. I'm going to be accurate. I was so certain that he made that effing kick. And I'm not even going to be like the end zone's here and we're way up here. No. Because I've called games there and I've had bad angles before. But I just guessed and I went out of body and I guessed, and that's the end of the story. And I messed it up. And, I'm getting some praise today online from like local newspapers and some other people being like, Paul Allen owned his mistake. He owned that major gaffe. Why do I need to be praised for that? I mean, when you receive effusive praise, like you said, and some other calls for 20 years, and for the first time in 20 years, this happens, and I'm going to hide behind it. Are you kidding me? Zero chance. I guessed, and I blew it.
So in that particular case, can you tell me what goes through a play-by-play announcer's mind at that precise moment? Does your stomach drop?
No, not really, because it's truly, Peter, it's not about me, it's about the game. Okay, so in this pot shot age of rage, specifically with social media, it's when somebody who does what I do or does what you do has a master bleep up, like, I don't know, putting something on Twitter that shouldn't be on Twitter and it was an accident, or messes up a game-winning call. Yeah, and okay, that's part of the job. Just like, this is not Detroit, man, it's the Super Bowl or Minneapolis Miracle. I don't script this stuff. And you know that. I mean, it's God gifted me in a way where what comes out comes out. And right after, I just felt so bad that we lost 2 consecutive. I like Mike Zimmer a lot. I love this team. And we're 0-2. And we played.
And it feels in some ways, that's one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on. I think and look, Bill Parcells always used to have a saying, you are what you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 0-2. You got to own it.
Say it a million times.
However, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be, in my opinion, a pretty good team. And they're going to be, I don't know, 9-8, 10-7. I don't know. I think they're going to be pretty good because they're explosive.
Yep.
And because, in my opinion, look, all I can say about yesterday is, or Sunday, excuse me, all I can say about Sunday's game is Kyler Murray's going to do that to a lot of people this year.
Yeah, you see,
he just is.
And I was so wrapped up in the game because I like Kyler, okay? But I think we need to slow down a little bit on where he is compared to where the greats are in the history of the game. With all due respect, I like Kyler a lot. Don't get me wrong here. He threw a pass yesterday or Sunday. Zimmer, I mean, this is how brilliant Zimmer is. And we gave up 474 yards and 1 million points, and we gave up 1 million points the week before, and we had a lot of trouble defensively at Cincinnati. But Mike called a play late in that game that he had not used since 2019, and it involves potential Hall of Fame safety Harrison Smith coming through the A-gap where he never blitzes, and he got through. He got through, and he's going to crush Kyler. And from Kyler's back foot, he just throws up this Billy Kilmer duck. But we had a corner who lost Christian Kirk, and it was a major play. So things like that were frustrating me. And, just to put a dagger, copyright Wayne Larrabee, into everything we're talking about that botch call is and I'm sure you're like this too, because I'm sure people take shots at you in the age of rage on social media. I faced a lot of them last night and this morning. It's the uninformed and it's the truly dumb ones that they just like mosquitoes. They just get me a little bit, but I never respond. So getting past that is very easy. At the end of the equation, I mean, I've had local TV stations here in the Twin Cities be like, can we bring a camera by the station and talk about this call? I'm like, what?
No.
I mean, that's where we're not making this whole thing about me. I effed up a call. Okay. I mean, if I really got to talk in a way where I need to defend myself professionally, which I don't want to do, but if I'm going to mess up a call like that once every 20 years, I'm pretty cool with that. But I love these players. I love these coaches. I love the Kubiaks, Clint Kubiak, our new offensive coordinator. I want them to win so badly that when I made that mistake and messed up that call at the end of the game, it didn't really hit me till we were flying home that, man, what the hell am I doing guessing? I just never guess. And so that was the end of that. Now, we played like crap for large patches of game at Cincinnati. We're in overtime. We're going to win the game. And Dalvin drops it. And we're going to win the game Sunday with Joseph from 37 yards. What an unbelievable game. I mean, now it
was unbelievable football game.
Where I wanted to, like, if the players could see me, despite the effed up call and despite my favorite team losing, I wanted to go, thank you for that entertainment. I mean, Matt Prater from 62 in front of halftime. Are you kidding me? But just in closing it with Kyler, he had 10 rushing touchdowns last year, the first 10 games of the year. Then he played Pete Carroll's team and he took a bad hit. Legal hit, but a bad hit, and he hurt his shoulder. Yeah. He had 1 rushing touchdown the rest of the year. He's slight of frame and he's 5'10". And running is a major part of his game, and he's phenomenal. But at 5'10", slight of frame, if you're going to put those hits on him like I've seen, you're going to shorten his career, mark my words.
Hey, Paul, I thought last night, I'm sure you were in the air or in transit, but at the end of the Sunday night, I keep saying last night, Sunday night, I thought at the end of the Baltimore-Kansas City game that obviously ended in a scintillating fashion, exactly like the game you were at. But Baltimore wins 36-35 in just it's an absolute total video postcard for why people love the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the end of the game, Cris Collinsworth said, and I quote, "Are announcers allowed to clap? I would like to clap for that one."
Wow.
I feel exactly the same way. Okay. Because at the end of that game, I think a lot of times we get so caught up in bitching and moaning about different parts of football, about, oh, this taunting penalty, it's a travesty, and you get so angry about it that you say, okay, wait a minute, let's just think about the game we just saw. Yeah, we can be ticked off about that, but let's think about it. And at the end of that game, so many things just hit me. At the end of the Baltimore Kansas City game, so many things just hit me, because you watch Lamar Jackson and Sammy Watkins with their helmets off, jumping and pirouetting on the field like ballerinas, with their mouths wide open in pure, unbridled joy.
Yeah.
And then you watch the Kansas City players on the ground, face buried in the turf after the fumble by Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And you basically say, man, it's just like the ABC Wide World of Sports, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And there's one other little point about that game that I just love about football. I just love it. Okay. The guy who made the play, Odafe Oweh, okay, a guy from Penn State, a pass rusher. He didn't have a great college career. And a lot of people thought that the Ravens reached when they took him. Yeah. They took him with the 31st pick of the first round. And he makes the play where he punches the ball out from Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 90 seconds to go. Ravens recover. They get the 4th and 1 that they make, and they run out the clock and they win the game. But the thing that I loved about this, I got Oweh on the phone after the game, and I could tell right away that he was emotional, and he had been very affected by what had happened in the last 45 minutes. And, he's a Nigerian kid who basically just started playing football 5 years ago.
Wow.
And now at the end of this game, he has people who've been in this game for 30, 40 years hugging him and saying, "You saved the game." Wow. And he says to me, he goes, "This moment will be burned into my brain for the rest of my life."
Wow.
And I just say to myself, where else are you getting that other than the NFL?
Yeah. Yeah. But see, there has to be a certain level of vulnerability with the individual. And, like me sharing with you what I shared and what Cris Collinsworth said last night, which I missed because I was in the air, where not everybody is willing, specifically men, to be that vulnerable. And, wherever we are in the pandemic, but from when the pandemic started through social unrest, which is, I'm in the belly of the beast in this city with George Floyd. Right. And that's why I call it the age of rage. I mean, it's people just, they look for something, and then they're just going to kill you. And that feels good to them. So it's fair to recognize it and navigate your way through it respectfully. But, because the botched call in our game, that we joked about it today on my radio show, and that's it. It's not about me. The game is not about me. The Minneapolis Miracle, God bless you, because when you said you called the kid right after the game, it made me think, because of how good you are and how well respected you are. I mean, 8 minutes after the game with the Minneapolis Miracle, which I coined, that my phone's ringing. There's you. Of course, I'm going to take it. And all you said was, "What'd you say?" and I'm like, "What do you mean? The final play? What'd you say?" And then we talked for a little while. That's exactly how that story with the Penn State kid, that's what it reminded me. But, Kirk Cousins, I love Kirk Cousins. I'm a person of faith. And Kirk and I have done faith-based speaking engagements ever since he arrived here. And he's one of the smartest football players I've ever met in my life, whether it's knowing, going to Numbers, Deuteronomy, Kings, or John, or diagnosing a defense. And I really pull for Kirk. And because, he had the audacity to become the first in the history of the NFL to take a 3-year guaranteed deal at about 30 each year, to whom much is given, much is expected, no doubt. And he hasn't been great every step of the way. I'm telling you right now, Sunday was the best game Kirk Cousins has ever had wearing our colors. He now is sliding in the pocket where he didn't for the first part of his run here. He outran Kyler Murray. He had more rushing yards than Kyler Murray. I mean, that's 15-1 on a prop bet somewhere. And you can tell Kirk, because Kirk's not going to brag ever. So, but you can tell Kirk has paid attention to the elevator music and the noise that's come in with those saying he's incapable of improvising. Our mutual friend, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, just kills Kirk for lack of improvisation. Well, Kirk's improvising and Kirk's sliding and Kirk has become slithery and he's already dead accurate with a wonderful arm and he's super smart. I said it on my radio show this week and I'm sticking by it. And if I'm wrong, I'll take the slings and arrows of the outrageous negatives.
Right.
His contract's up at the end of next year and he does make a lot of money. I think that Kirk would be willing to redo at the end of the second year of this deal, 2022, to a more team-friendly deal. But Vikings fans better be careful if they want to push him out of town and think that Kellen Mond, who we drafted,
or whoever,
whomever is just going to roll in and give you what you're having, because it's getting better. And it got better last year. What I saw yesterday from Kirk against a good, not great defense, but very fast. And they did great work on Chandler Jones, wonderful work on J.J. Watt and Isaiah Simmons and Budda Baker. I mean, just 4 phenomenal players, by the way. But what I'm seeing from Kirk is you're going to want him to be your quarterback the next 6 or 7 years here. But we're on to something with Kirk. It took a while. But, man, I just really wish for nothing but the best for Kirk Cousins.
I want to ask you just 2 other quick things. One is that what was so interesting to me in the wake of this game, all politics are local and all sports fans are local. And maybe I just forget about this. It seems like every fan base has 5, 6, 8 kicks they remember that were missed that cost them dearly. But Mark Craig, friend of mine, Hall of Fame voter of the Star Tribune, had a column in the paper on Monday, which said, in essence, land of 10,000 missed kicks.
Yep.
That's how it feels for Vikings.
Yeah.
So, Paul, you're there. Is that how it feels?
Well, you have Blair Walsh after the 2015 season. Right. I had dinner with offensive coordinator Norv Turner 2 nights before that game at Wildfire Steakhouse in Eden Prairie. And Norv basically laid out to me, when you go after this defense, what do you want to do? Challenge Michael Bennett? You want to go at Earl Thomas? You want to go at Richard Sherman? No. Okay, well, we got Deshaun Shedd over here, and he's having a tough time of it. Yeah. But they know he's having a tough time of it, so they cover him up. So where do you go? Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright? So Norv laid this out so beautifully, and then he basically said, Cam Chancellor just came back from a long injury like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that's what he had in his back pocket the entire game. I waited for it the entire call. And he went at Cam with Kyle Rudolph 2 or 3 times, Teddy did, and we went right down the field. There it is. Everything Norv said, and all we got to do is hit a 27-yarder at this college stadium with minimal wind, but it's super cold.
Yeah.
And here we go. We're going to Arizona, second round of the playoffs, and Walsh missed it. So but see, it's the way the kickers have cycled in here. Like last 2 years ago, we traded a 5th for Corey Vedvik with the Baltimore Ravens, and he didn't make the team. We were so desperate, and we had Dan Bailey, the Cowboys kicker, 85, 86% immortality, gets here, terrible, and then he's gone. And then it goes back to Gary Anderson in 98. And, I mean, all the names, Peter, Aaron Elling, Paul Edinger, Kai Forbath, Blair Walsh, Corey Vedvik, Dan Bailey, Riley Patterson, Greg Joseph. I mean, Justin Tucker and Adam Vinatieri, they look at this and they're like, I always love that one. Are you kidding me with this whole thing? Mason Crosby, where we face him twice a year. Jason Hanson for like 20 years when we would face him. So it's just, we just can't hone in on it. And that's what seems to frustrate the fans the most. There have been big missed kicks, but I think it's just the fluctuation of the kicker situation and not being able to hone in on one.
The amazing thing about Kari Vedvik, which is really one of the weirdest stories in recent NFL lore. And people will say, who the hell's Kari Vedvik? Well, Kari Vedvik in 2019 was the hottest kicker in the preseason. And quite honestly, there's really no difference in making a field goal in a preseason game versus a regular season game. And people will say, well, of course there is. No, there isn't. Because for Kari Vedvik, this is job interview. Okay. If he misses, he's going to go sell cars in Tulsa. But Kari Vedvik had one of the best preseasons that a kicker has had. And so the Vikings trade for him, and they trade a 5.
Yep.
And, Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Ravens, I remember talking to him about this once, and he felt sick for Vedvik. He really did. He loved Vedvik. He just couldn't believe it. But when he got to Minnesota, couldn't make a kick.
But hey, take it a step farther here. We made him, with all due respect to two people I adore, Rick Spielman, our general manager, Mike Zimmer, our head coach. I mean, I just love those guys. We in 2019, second game of the year, we're at Lambeau, rookie from Auburn, Daniel Carlson, who we draft. He misses 3 kicks. We tie the Packers when we outplayed him. He gets cut that week. Well, yeah, look at him now with Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders. So there are things like that too that really irk the fan base. And, this Greg Joseph, man, I mean, what a strong leg. He had a walk-off winner for Tennessee, and he missed some in the preseason, right, and he missed the one at Arizona, right. But you're right about the kicking and the auditioning. Cold-blooded from 53 at Cincy. We go to overtime. A couple from 52 at Arizona, and then he misses from 37. It's cliche as it may be, Peter, and we try to avoid cliches, but they're called cliches for a reason because they stand the test of time in terms of accuracy. When it comes to kickers and confidence, if they lose their confidence, you might be in a lot of trouble for the rest of the year. I've just seen it. Blair Walsh missed that kick. The prevailing against Seattle in the playoffs, the prevailing emotion in the locker room was, wow, each of us just cost $50,000 in playoff money that we would have gotten by going to play Arizona. They were mad. It was vitriol. And Blair never bounced back, never got back into the league. It's a super sad story. 2012, he's a rookie out of Georgia, Peter. 10 of 10 from 50 plus NFL record. So the mental piece with the kickers, we can joke around with it and say kickers are weird, they're different, whatever. You lose a kicker mentally, it's all over.
Last thing. So give me your thought on the fate of this year's Minnesota Vikings. People who love the Vikings and who will listen to this know that you'll shoot them straight. Tell me, what will the end game be with these Vikings?
I thought they would win 11 games into the season. I felt it was non-negotiable, Peter, to lose at Cincinnati. And I know they're better. And they played the Bears tough too recently. They are better. I've seen it. Larry Ogunjobi, what a wonderful free agent signing that was. But still, we played like crap. And we're going to win the game in overtime if we don't fumble. That Arizona team might have a little house of cards to it. We'll see. But we had a great chance to win that game. We're as good as almost any team in the NFL when it becomes cohesive. So now a massive, massive game against Seattle. Russell Wilson is 7-0 against us. And Mike has done a good job against Russell every single game. You ain't going to see no 375, 4-0 Russell against Mike. You have to win this game. If you lose this game, it has the potential to spiral. And here's why. Because game number 4, a week from Sunday, the Cleveland Browns come to town. Now, they're coached by Kevin Stefanski, probably my best friend I've ever had in football. He was here 15 years. Kevin, is even-keeled Kevin, and he's wonderful at what he does. He's going to come in here looking to ruin your season. That's it. That's just how they operate, and they're good. So you better get this one, man, because that Cleveland game ain't no freebie. And then after that, you got Matt Rule's team, and they're winning games. We have to win 2 of the next 3, preferably 3 of the next 3. I don't know what to say with where we're going to go. I just know Cousins has never played better. Cook is unbelievable. Jefferson's unbelievable. They can't cover Adam Thielen, even at this stage of his career. This second-year Hurricane, KJ Osborne, from the greatest wide receiver draft in the history of the NFL, couldn't find him with a searchlight last year. Now you can't cover him. So the offense and with the defense, with Pierce, Tomlinson, Kendricks, need to get Barr back. Peterson played a hell of a game against not only his former team, but DeAndre Hopkins Sunday. And, Harrison Smith, with all that, Peter, we're good, man. We're good. But we can't get into these 12 penalties against Cincinnati and missed kick against Arizona. That bull crap has to stop. And when it does, we're going to win about 5, 6, 7 in a row. And I still think we're going to make the playoffs, believe it or not.
Yeah. Before we leave, I want to ask you about a guy who I've really enjoyed covering and getting to know a little bit over the years, and that's Patrick Peterson. He lost 10 pounds, signed with the Vikings, was so exhilarated when I saw him at training camp in Eagan, Minnesota. Give me your early view on Patrick Peterson.
He's a class act. He speaks his mind. He has the black and white gene. Sometimes people take it differently. Like there was a story in the Arizona Republic up to our game where I felt they were kind of manufacturing the reason fans should boo Patrick, where he didn't mention the GM by name, but kind of said something that a conclusion was drawn. And, you've done this longer than I have, so you've seen it a million times. Patrick Peterson had the audacity to be quoted, Peter, saying when the schedule came out, I circled this game on the schedule against my former team. Oh, that's trash talking galore, right? I mean, holy cow, we haven't heard that but 10 million times. So he was very excited to go back there, played a heck of a game, got beat on a touchdown. He just got beat. He got lost on Hopkins, back left to the end zone, and it happened early in the game. But you know what? After that, because he was on DeAndre the whole game, DeAndre didn't have a catch for the final 54 and a half minutes of the game. Patrick gets credit for that too. And the lasting impression that I had with Patrick was the galvanizing effect he had on this team at Arizona, where we may lose, but we ain't going to embarrass ourselves out here, and we're not going to embarrass that guy because he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. And they're booing him. When he ran out of the tunnel and he was the first out, oh my heavens, that took my breath away. They're booing the hell out of him. Or as you would write, booing lustily.
Just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I mean, that's what I don't like. It's like, hey, listen, in week 4, let me ask you this, Paul. In week 4, what will happen when Tom Brady comes out of the tunnel in Foxborough with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Cheer or boo?
Ovation.
Standing ovation. Okay.
Standing ovation. And 09.
I hope so.
09, when we went to Lambeau with Favre, we thought about it all week. And 80% of it was standing ovation. Yeah, the rest of it was who cares? Because that's how it has to be. Patrick never got a standing ovation. He galvanized that defense, and they played their asses off. There were blown coverages, but they played their asses off for him, man. And old schoolers like you and I, we look for the nuance and the human interest angle in it because it hits the heart. And that's what I saw with those guys for Patrick Sunday.
Yeah, very interesting. Paul Allen, you've been so gracious with your time. I thought it was going to be 12 to 15 minutes, and it was a half hour. You were a mensch, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I don't know what a mensch is, but I'm going to thank you. So
Good dude.
I'm going to say you're a connoisseur of fine Manischewitz. And I do have to run now because I got to put my phone number on Twitter real quick so I can get everybody who's ripping me, so I can actually talk to them like mouth to mouth. All right.
Paul Allen, thanks so much.
Bye, Peter.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.